So, listen carefully. On August 20th, something completely unusual happened. We directed the James Webb Telescope, the best instrument ever created by humans, at an object called 3I Atlas. We thought it was just another interstellar rock, something boring. However, the data we received turned out to be astonishing. Physics doesn't make sense, and let's start with the strangest moments. This object is located 6 astronomical units from the Sun. It's cold. Really cold. Any comet at such a distance should be just a chunk of frozen ice, a dead object. But this thing is active. It emits carbon dioxide, and its quantity is simply astonishing. The ratio is 8 to 1. 8 to 1. No comet behaves like this. It's something absurd. The physics of this process simply doesn't work. Moving on. The coma, that is, the gas cloud around the object, consists solely of gas, no dust. Usually, a comet is a dirty snowball that scatters particles throughout space. But here, it's as if someone opened a gas valve, a very precise, controlled emission. But there is something truly shocking. The telescope captures a powerful nickel signal that intensifies as it approaches the object. And there is no iron. Completely none. Zero. The signal is steady, as if it never existed. Understand that in nature, nickel and iron always go together. It's like a law. About 1 part nickel to 15 parts iron, everywhere, in any asteroid or comet. But here, the ratio of nickel to iron is 40 to 1. Nature doesn't do that. To separate these two metals, technology and intent are needed. And this object is just drifting in space, and it is accelerating. We recorded an acceleration of 0.12 meters per second, squared over 3 days. For an object the size of a city, with a diameter of 11 kilometers, this is a colossal figure. It is not solar wind. It is too far away. It is not gas emissions. They could not provide such a steady, constant impulse. And the acceleration does not occur smoothly, but with micro jumps. Something inside switches on and off. And finally, the climax. The object pulses. Every 7.2 hours it becomes brighter. It doesn't just look like a random fragment, but ignites with the precision of a clockwork mechanism, like a lighthouse. So let's discard everything that doesn't work. It's not a comet. When you exclude all natural explanations, only one remains. It's technology. It's a machine. Perhaps it's just a fragment, an ancient spaceship drifting for billions of years. Yet it functions. It accelerates. It separates metal and sends a signal. And here it is. We are witnessing an active planetary mechanism for the first time. The fact that we had to switch the James Webb to emergency mode says a lot. This is not just a technical procedure. It is an acknowledgement that we are looking at something we were not meant to see, and it changes absolutely everything. While the data on acceleration sparked debates in the observatory, a new stream of information emerged that was even harder to ignore. Photometric data from the Gemini telescope and the Tessa Space Telescope revealed a periodic increase in brightness of the object Tri-I Atlas every 7.2 hours. This event itself did not seem too unusual. Many comets and asteroids rotate and reflect sunlight, creating repeating patterns. However, this rotation was unusual. The bursts of brightness were too pure and precise. They did not fade smoothly or flicker like irregularly shaped objects. They appeared and disappeared like a lighthouse, turning on and off at perfect intervals. Even as gas emissions increased and the object accelerated, the rhythm of the light remained unchanged. It kept its cycle like a metronome. This stability indicated something much more structured, which did not just react randomly to sunlight, but acted with precision. Some theorists suggested that it could be a solar sail, a wide reflective structure designed to capture solar radiation. Such a system could theoretically explain both the acceleration and the regular nature of the bursts. Others proposed the idea of a rotating platform with flat panels. But everyone unanimously agreed that the behavior of this object did not correspond to any known natural phenomenon. It was not rotation, but a signal, a mechanical impulse. And with each pass, he whispered the same message to the observers on Earth. I am not what you think I am. The turning point did not occur because of the object itself, but because of the people watching it. On August 20th at 21:30 Greenwich time, a distress message was sent from the Earth Observatory to the control center. Spectral data from other telescopes could not be ignored. Carbon dioxide emissions were off the charts, metal levels had significantly increased, and the sharp velocity curve defied explanation in terms of gravity. It was then that this moment occurred. The emergency control mode was activated, an extremely rare protocol that interrupts all scheduled research and redirects the James Webb Space Telescope to study this anomaly. This step consumed precious time and fuel budget, and it had only been applied a few times since the telescope's launch. It had never been used for an interstellar object before. For several minutes, a chain of emergency management commands passed by the committee, bypassing project graphs, and ended up directly on the project leader's desk. Approval had to be unanimous, and it was received. The Webb telescope turned, its instruments recalibrated, and at 21:07 GMT, it focused on the third atlas with the NIRPC device. What came in the first data packets was not just strange, it was historic. The spectra showed no icy imprint of a comet. They demonstrated carbon chemistry in such extreme forms that compared to them, any known bodies of the solar system would appear ordinary. The decision to switch to emergency mode was not just a scientific choice. It was a silent anxiety. The most advanced telescope ever created has just halted all of space to pursue something unusual. The deeper the researchers delved into the data about the Webb, the harder it became to find anything familiar. The ratio of carbon dioxide to water turned out to be completely incorrect. However, it was the profile of metals that violated all known rules. In every comet, asteroid, and meteorite ever studied, nickel was always present. They are formed in the same stellar forges where physics merges with ancient explosions. Although the ratio may vary slightly, the partnership between them remains unchanged. But not in this case. In the Triple Atlas, nickel was present everywhere, while iron was absent. It did not diminish, was not masked, it simply disappeared. Each study showed a negative result. Teams using ultraviolet spectrographs rechecked more than a dozen stellar iron lines. None appeared. In contrast, nickel illuminated the spectrum like a powerful spotlight. The wavelengths varied from 3,000 to 400 and from 1,500 to smaller values, clearly distinguished against the background noise. The only known process capable of such separation in laboratory conditions requires high-energy chemistry, industrial pressures, and precise control. The team proposed one explanation: the presence of nickel carbonyl, a volatile compound that evaporates at just 43 degrees. However, even this molecular compound does not explain the complete absence of iron. As a result, a spectral imprint emerged that did not match any known natural patterns, not even Borisov's or Amua's mind. It corresponded to nothing. The chemical composition was so distorted and deliberate that even the most skeptical began to wonder. What place, what world, or what technology could have created this? The strangest part of this unfolding mystery comes not from deep space but from Earth. From museums, tombs, and ancient texts that tell of iron from the heavens. The Egyptians called it metal of the heavens. The blade buried with King Tutankhamun contains almost 11% nickel, which could not have been obtained with ancient tools, but perfectly matches the chemical signature of meteorites. Babylonian scribes described falling stars and hot stones, always linking them to omens of war and destruction. Elite artifacts, such as rings, beads, and daggers made from metals enriched with nickel more than any earthly ore, are found throughout the ancient Near East. Metals that fell, ignited, and instilled fear. And so in the year 2005, we look to the sky again and see the same signature. Much nickel, no iron, and no known sources. The structure of the View monstrosity, a crystalline striping that occurs only in metal formed in space, left marks on relics older than cities. Historians and physicists now ponder a question that no one has ever dared to ask. What if these artifacts were not just meteorite fragments, but evidence of contact? What if these metals were not merely remnants of stars, but parts of something that came before and has already passed by? What if the Triatlas is not just another anomaly, but a new chapter in an ancient book that we have only just begun to read? While scientists continued to study emissions rich in nickel and carbon dioxide, researchers noticed something alarming in the thermal data. In the patterns of the 3I Atlas radiation, a subtle yet persistent electromagnetic rhythm was hidden, a frequency pulse too regular to be random, yet too weak to be perceived as an intentional transmission. Webb sensors detected it but initially dismissed it as instrument noise. It was not a mistake. After the emissions data was cleared and transformed into audible waveforms, they revealed a repeating rhythm. It was neither music nor language, but something more sinister. Mathematical structures, simple intervals based on Fibonacci numbers, geometric harmonics echoed in the structures found in DNA, in crystal growth, and in the architectural designs of antiquity. The signal was not strong enough to transmit through space, but strong enough for any nearby observer to catch. In other words, It was like a breadcrumb trail, a cosmic imprint embedded not in radio waves, but in the behavior of the object itself. If we could hear it, then others could too. The question was not who the signal was addressed to, but who had already caught it. Just a few days after Webb's emergency management attracted public attention, geophysicists in the southern hemisphere began recording anomalies in the Earth's magnetic field. Initially, these anomalies were attributed to minor fluctuations in solar activity, but day by day, it became harder to ignore. Identical impulses were recorded in several places, such as Antarctica, Argentina, and Western Australia. These ultra-high frequency pulses, spaced at perfect intervals of 7 hours and 20 minutes, coincided exactly with the periodicity of the three-eye atlas's shine. These signals did not follow the usual patterns of solar storms or lightning. They originated not from above, but from within the Earth itself. And moreover, they mirrored the structure of thermal frequencies hidden in the emissions of the object. Somewhere deep within the Earth's core, something began to resonate. Quietly, unnoticed, arrhythmically, as if responding, harmonizing like a tuning fork, capturing the echoes of a forgotten song. The thought that the ancient systems of Earth, tectonic, electromagnetic, even biological, might synchronize with something passing through the solar system is frightening. Not because it could be dangerous, but because it hints at a story that this is not the first time the Earth has possibly heard this frequency before, and that which was dormant has just remembered. If you trace the path of the triatlas along its vector of motion to the predicted exit trajectory, something almost perfect is revealed. The object moves not just under the influence of gravity, it navigates. It evades. His path astonishingly avoids every large celestial body, slipping between gravitational wells as if it were a meticulously programmed spacecraft. Unlike natural cometary trajectories, which are chaotic, curved, and influenced by gravitational forces, this object exhibits a frightening determination. In their simulations, astronomers loaded data into trajectory models used for planetary maneuvers, which served to chart the courses of interplanetary probes. The result was impressive. A match of 92.6% with engineering flight trajectories. But soon, something even more troubling became known. When forecasting his further path, it became clear that he crosses a narrow corridor in space, located just behind Saturn's orbit. Some theories suggest that in this place there may be a hypothetical point of gravitational zero, or even Lagrange gates leading to the outer boundary of the solar system. In general, the object does not drift. It moves rapidly, and does so with a coordination that no known natural body has ever demonstrated. Time, positioning, acceleration. All this indicates not just a journey, but a purposeful navigation, not random discoveries, but the completion of a mission that seems close to its end. And, at that moment, he suddenly fell silent. Just as the James Webb Telescope was preparing for another series of high-precision scans, and when the object crossed the mark of 2,500 astronomical units from the Sun, emissions 3, and from the class, both chemical and thermal, began to fade. The spectral lines of nickel dimmed, the carbon dioxide emissions slowed down, the periodic brightness curve leveled off, and then, unexpectedly, the object dropped below the detection threshold of Webb. This happened not due to distance or any obstacles, but because it completely stopped glowing. It looked not like a natural fading, but like a shutdown. All observed activity ceased for 11 hours. Instruments around the world confirmed this phenomenon. The Gemini and Subaru observatories, along with large ground-based infrared telescopes in Chile, recorded the same scene. 3 in the atmosphere cooled, and the silence resembled an instant and deliberate act of concealment. Or worse, as if it were the end of the broadcast. If it still emitted, reacted, and transmitted signals, perhaps it was not hiding at all, but searching, activating, or testing something. And when it found what it was looking for, it simply stopped. Like a machine shutting down after completing its final protocol, he left us with many questions and a terrible realization that we never controlled the situation. We were merely observers of something much older and more patient than we could imagine. Just as the scientists thought that 3 and Atlas had completed their passage through the solar system, something impossible appeared in the latest trajectory models. Its trajectory, originally intended to perform a gravitational maneuver around the Sun and disappear into deep space, changed, slightly but significantly. Instead of continuing towards the outer system, it smoothly altered course and headed back towards the inner planets. It was not the result of a gravitational maneuver. All calculations were done accurately, and the vector confirmed it. The transport ship Triatlas now stood still, in silence, now dark, changing direction. But this was not done by chance. His corrected path crossed a specific area between Earth and Venus, a zone known for its stable gravitational dynamics, but interestingly, it was also one of the few regions where several earthly satellites had recently detected intermittent signal disturbances. Initially, NASA staff attributed the changes in the trajectory to an observation error, but when three independent deep space radar installations, Goldstone, Arecibo, and the Chinese Fast Array, confirmed these changes, the situation changed. No comet corrects its course after it extinguishes. Not one. A natural object is not directed to an area with low detection, and certainly nothing intelligent maneuvers with such surgical precision, if of course he did not intend to leave his place but rather planned to stay. While engineers and astronomers hurried to restore visual contact with the Triatlas, discoveries of a completely different kind were unfolding in the laboratory of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Terabytes of spectroscopic data from observations of EBA and Gemini were uploaded to the artificial intelligence neural network, not to search for elements, but to identify structure. And it found it. Images related to missions exploring nickel and carbon dioxide, visualized over time and adjusted for rotational changes, formed a multidimensional spiral, a twisted structure embedded in the mission of time series. At first it seemed meaningless, but when compared to the earliest biological structures on Earth, a disturbing similarity emerged. The primary RNA strands were not perfect matches, but geometric parallels, recursions, folds, and proportions were found, enough to make molecular biologists pause in thought. What if the three atlases were not just emitting gas? What if they were releasing a coded biological framework? It was not a living cage, but something more ancient, akin to a pattern, not in sounds but in chemistry, like a family captured in amber, waiting for the right environment to take root. And what if Earth or Mars or some predetermined point in the solar system was already prepared to receive this code?